Hello, I'm Forrest Shaw, and I've got a problem. How's everybody doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all the new people that are listening and subscribing on YouTube and um, Apple and Spotify and iHeartRadio. I see ya. I see it growing slowly and steadily. I'm happy for that. I'm happy that people are getting something out of the podcast. So thanks for being here. Remember to comment and rate as well. And I have a lot of shows upcoming. I am starting to go on the road in about, when does this come out? I guess in about 2 weeks. And I will be in Bastrop, Texas. I'll be in LaGrange, Texas. I'll be in Plano, Texas at Mic Drop. I also will be at the Red Room. I'll be in the Red Room at Cap City Comedy Club in Austin, Texas. Let me get all those dates. I should say the dates. So I'll be in Austin, Texas at Cap City on the 22nd. I'll be in Mic Drop in Plano on the 26th. I'll be in LaGrange, Texas on 17th of October. These are October. Bastrop the 18th. And then I get to Florida and I'll be in Sarasota October 29th through November 2nd at McCurdy's. Be at the Comedy Inn in Miami November 6th through the 8th. Of November 9th, I'll be at the Doghouse. It's a small theater in Boca. I'll be running my new show called The Ocean Hates You, which is separate from my other stand-up. That'll be the first time I'm running that. I'll be in Fort Myers at Snappers November 12th through the 13th, and I'll be at Sad Man Comedy Club November 14th through the 15th in Boca. I'll be in Key West November 19th through the 22nd at Comedy Key West, and then I'll be all over Florida after that. I'm going to be in Winter Haven in December. I'm going to be in Ocala. I'm going to be in Cocoa Beach. I'm also going to be in a bunch of places in January, starting to add it to my calendar, some of those later dates on forrestshaw.net. I'm going to be in Arizona too, near Phoenix in January, and San Diego. All that stuff is on forrestshaw.net. Also on the podcast page there's a donate button. And if you feel like donating to the podcast, I will accept your donation and use it to help pay to support the podcast. Got a new donation from longtime donator or multiple donator. Pamela. Thank you, Pamela, as always. And sometimes I don't read the comments. I will read this comment. Thank you for highlighting the importance of therapy as part of recovery. I believe she's referring to my last episode where I had Aaron Gilbert on. I got a comment underneath that on YouTube where they don't like therapy. So I think that therapy is important. If you don't think it is because of personal experiences, maybe try it again. But I'm also not telling you what to do. As I always say in this podcast, do what works for you to help you with whatever problems you need help with, whether it's addiction or something else. But thank you again, Pamela, for donating. We have a great episode today. Again, I always say that. One of these days, I'm like, this episode sucks. I guess I have said that after my solo episodes. Was that good? My buddy Jake Marin's on, and I'm excited to have him on. I was hanging out with him a couple weeks back, and it just occurred to me to ask him if he'd be on the podcast. And I really always like his attitude towards life. And I talk about that in the podcast too. And I'm really happy to have him on. And as always, great insight. Always great insight in this podcast. Things I haven't thought about or didn't think about in that right way. So here we go. Let's talk to Jake. I'll see you guys on the other side. Hello, everybody. Today, my guest is my good friend, Jake Marin. He has a couple books I want to promote. One is called Puzzled Jewish Holidays. The other one is called Puzzled American Holidays, and they're both available on Amazon. I bought one. I bought the Jewish Holidays, even though I'm not Jewish. Haven't done any of the puzzles yet. Sorry, they are kids' books, I will say. But thanks for being here, Jake.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And they're for adults too, Forrest. They're going to sharpen your brain, make sure you don't get dementia, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I flipped through it. They're pretty cool. And I was just excited that you published a book. So, of course, I was going to support it. But I don't know anything about Jewish holidays. I know, are we currently in one?
We are. Today is Rosh Hashanah when we're filming, and it's the start of the Jewish New Year.
Uh,
So it's perfect. You just go flip open the book, man. It'll explain everything to you, and you'll be an expert. But it's like a time of renewal. So it's nice to be on this podcast with you talking about addiction because I feel like this last year has been a big thing of like renewal for me. So it's been pretty cool.
well, first of all, I forgot to ask all my guests this. I ask all my guests right away. Hey, what's your problem?
Oh, well, I got plenty of problems, man, but my major problem it's addiction. It comes down in many forms. You know, some people call it alcoholism. Some people call it, addiction. For me, I just think like I have that thing inside of me where I could get addicted to. I could get addicted to going to the gym. I could get addicted to drinking coffee. I could get addicted to painkillers. I could get addicted to alcohol. I could get addicted to whatever betting, and we'll talk about that. Whatever pops into my life, I can become a creature of habit and I could overdo it and obsess about it. And yeah. Um, but I think there's something inside of me that like when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to painkillers, when it comes to marijuana, those especially just kind of trigger things in me that lead me to just kind of focus on that and ignore a lot of other stuff. And then I'm just spiraling in addiction.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot about your background because I believe when I met you the first time, and that maybe I don't know if you were sober or not. I just remember one time you were drinking a kombucha and you were talking about you're not drink because everyone else was drinking at the place we were
Yeah.
at. And
Yeah, no, yeah, I think I met you when I was sober. And let me just clarify where I'm at. Like I haven't had a drink in over 9 years. Um, that's when I started trying not to, after about like 6 months of trying not to have a drink. And then I've been lucky. I had a moment where actually it was my brother-in-law and my sister's wedding. And we were all, in the Jewish tradition. We're just talking about Judaism today. We were hanging out before the wedding and with the rabbi and everybody's drinking. It's like it's a tradition. You all drink together. And I took a drink then and I just like I felt very strongly that like I don't want to do this anymore. And that's the last drink I had. And it was just kind of like a very powerful moment. But over those last 9.5 years, what have you, I've been fully sober twice for 2 years. And unfortunately, I mean, that's when I met you. But unfortunately, I've relapsed because I've dealt with pain that has led me to, I've done some crazy stuff, Forrest. I mean, like I tried to deal with my pain by taking a bunch of mushrooms. Like I microdosed and then it became macrodosing, and I was just taking mushrooms all the time because it kind of helped with the pain and just to clarify for everybody out there, like I ruptured two discs when I was 19 in college. They broke in half. I had to have a discectomy, laminectomy. They removed bone, removed disc, and I had a doctor just throw pills at me. Bunch of Vicodin, bunch of Soma muscle relaxer. They don't even prescribe anymore because it is very addicting. It gets you very high, and I built up quite a tolerance to that. Um, so over the years, like, yeah, man, I've really been trying to stay completely sober, and it's not always easy. Right now, I just celebrated a year of complete sobriety. That's where I'm at right now, and it's been a great year. Life is going very well, and Forrest and I are in a fantasy football league, and we do a draft every year. That's a travel draft, and I was thinking about this a lot because we went a year ago to a old west town. And I think I mentioned to you on the trip this year to Atlantic City, but I was miserable last year. I was absolutely miserable. And I still had a good time with the guys, but like inside I was so anxious, I was uncomfortable. I was vaping the entire time, weed, just like staying high.
why? Because
Um,
everybody was drinking and
no, it had nothing to do with everybody else. It
eh,
had everything to do with me. I was miserable. I don't get tempted by other people drinking. Like we're just in Atlantic City with all the boys, everybody's drinking. That doesn't bother me. That doesn't affect me.
yeah.
My alcoholism and addiction, it goes to places where I don't drink and then I try to solve that by taking mushrooms, smoking weed, taking gas station kratom. Like anything I can do to, like, kinda convince myself that I don't have a problem. Like, for me, it's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, well, I'm doing all this, but I'm not drinking, so I'm okay."
Yeah.
Or, like, when I got off of pills, I started drinking. That's when my drinking got the worst, and it's like, "Oh, but I'm not taking pills. I'm not mixing them." So it's like I'm trying to figure out the right thing to do, plug it in, and Forrest, I'm just someone who has tried to figure it out, tried to solve this in so many different ways, so many different substances that I realize that, like, through and through, I have alcoholism, I have addictive tendencies, and, I'm better when I'm not doing anything like that. I'm better when my mind's cleared and, like, I could go out to Atlantic City with all the boys, everybody's drinking, we're going to a club, like, I
Yeah.
had a blast, had a blast, and
Yeah.
and I'm fully sober, and it's like, I'm just the best when I'm like that. So that's,
Yeah.
you know,
'Cause
it's
I
taken
wanted
me
to
years
ask,
to learn.
yeah, I wanted to ask you. By the way, I wouldn't have known what kratom was until about 4 weeks ago. I did an episode on it with Noah Urbina, who
Oh,
speaks about
I
it a
I
lot.
I
And
took
my
a lot of
friend,
it.
yeah, a friend of mine um, had a big issue with it and was the one that kind of turned me on to the subject of it. And so just you mentioning it was like exciting. I was like, oh, I know what that is. Like, I didn't know, but it's terrible.
It's
Yeah.
it's very similar to a painkiller in the way it makes
Yeah.
me feel, and I love painkillers. Some people hate them, they get them too high. For me, it gives me energy, makes me feel, like,
Yeah.
relaxed. It's dangerous for me, and kratom does the same thing, gives me energy, makes me feel, like, good, relaxed. But it's disgusting. It tastes
Yeah. Yeah.
horrible,
Yeah.
and my tolerance went up real high, so I was taking a bunch of it, and then, like, yeah, so I'm glad you know what it is. It is, I think it's beneficial for people coming off of heroin and stuff like that. It's a good way to, like,
That's what he said. Yeah. I mean, there's
yeah.
a whole, the whole episode's on. I think I was saying kratom in it. Maybe he said, but I think you remember him saying there's a lot of different ways to pronounce it. Kratom, kratom.
Kratom, whatever,
Yeah.
man. I mean, bottom
Yeah.
line, it's the same thing.
But going back to what I wanted to, you mentioned something at the end there is, since I've known you, you're one of there's like a handful of people that I know in my life that I know are always going to be at a certain tone or mood or something, and you're one of them. Like in a good way. I'm saying this.
Yeah.
My friend Orlando is like that too, where like I'm even stuff might be going on in your life and stuff, but when you see them, you're always like, "Hey, like, how's it going? Good to see it." Like, it's always it's like I can be very curmudgeony and grumpy and stuff sometimes and standoffish, but you are always it's always like a ray of sunshine to see you, and so I have you always been like that, even like when you're drinking like that pills or everything? Are you all yeah
That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate it, man. And you are a curmudgeon, but I always think you're a very friendly curmudgeon. You're always a
yeah
fun curmudgeon to be around. Uh, and I feel the same way. But yeah, I mean, I've always tried, but when I'm in my addiction, I make my world small. I don't reach out as much to people. I don't call people. I don't go hang out as much. There are people with addiction, and I know you've talked to plenty of them who, alcoholics who get DUIs or you know, addicts to cocaine or other substances who go out and they party. And then they're spending money. They're out there and they're making mistakes. They're causing problems in their life. They're cheating on their wives or whatever it may be. I make my world small, and then I get miserable. I deal with depression. That's something that I deal with, and so I think one of the ways I deal with that is with my natural personality of trying to be friendly and kind, and it's not always easy, but I know if, like, I act that way, like, life will be better, like, treating people with respect and kindness and that kinda stuff, like, not always easy for me. I can be a curmudgeon, I could get down, um,
no
and in yeah,
believe it.
yeah, oh,
I
yeah,
believe
and
it.
in my
Yeah.
it's true, it's very true, and in my addiction, man, I push everybody away. That's the worst thing I do, I think. I think I push my friends away. I get really small. My life becomes very small. And a little over a year ago, I realized just how small life was, and it was just not good. And I realized I had to make a change again.
Yeah, I I'm kidding with you when I said you can't be that way, obviously, but,
Of course.
um, yeah, I think that's interesting because I am you said I'm a friendly curmudgeon, but if I am gambling and I'm, just fucking my life up doing that. And then on top of that, food, which I've talked about too, addiction issues with. If I'm
Yeah.
doing that, I do make my world smaller. Like I never thought about that, and but when you said that, it really was like, oh yeah. And then the friendly curmudgeon becomes the not friendly curmudgeon, and then it's like so. I think yeah, I think that's really insightful because especially like with the food thing too, because I've lost a lot of weight recently, but that was so big that I would go and do my shows, and on my shows, I can go up on the stage and make fun of myself for being fat, whatever. But then I didn't ever want to do anything. Like now, people are like, "Hey, do you want to meet me at this blah blah blah?" And then we'll do this. I'm like, "Yeah, okay," because number one, I have the energy to do it, but also I'm
Yeah.
just like, "Oh yeah, I'm not like I'm not ripped and in great shape, but I feel better about my body and just even clothes that I'm wearing and stuff like that." And so I've expanded my world that way again, where I was shrinking it, and then also with the gambling, it's the same thing. I always like to gamble. I would if I'm gambling and I'm losing, and I'm just I don't want to be around anyone. I don't want to be talking to anybody. I barely
Yeah.
want to talk to my dog. That's the only thing that really saved my life sometimes.
I
So,
I understand completely, and, luckily, I have a really my wife's amazing. She's been so supportive through everything, and, like, it just she loves me, man. She loves me. I say this, and I don't mean this in any kinda way, like, I love my wife completely. I think she's my soulmate. I love her with all as much as I could possibly love someone. She loves me more, there's no question. She just loves me, and that love is definitely been something that I've been grateful for and has pushed me to do all kinds of things. You talk about food, I've also, we both have this same issue. We like to eat. And
yeah,
I food is an addiction for me, especially when I get off of these other things. It's like chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. I'm a sweets guy. I will go hard, and it's been very hard to keep my weight under control. My wife's very supportive. Like she'll diet with me. She's obviously very petite and in much better shape than I am. But that support helps me to keep stuff in the house that's good for me, keep things low. And I have an ideal weight. I've lost 50 pounds. I'd like to lose another like 10. She's funny. She's like, well, I think you could lose another like maybe 25, 30. And it's like, come on now, give me a break. It's
yeah,
not that easy. All right.
yeah,
But Yeah, I get it, man, and with gambling, I get real I talked to Forrest before this, like, this is another way my addiction plays out, trying to solve my alcoholism is like, I like to gamble. It's fun until it's not fun, it's fun when you're winning, but then, like, I'll give you this just this week, I've put in, like, probably lost $100, and overall, I'm still up, and I'm not like, I'm not a crazy gambler, but I do these prop picks online. Ever since Atlantic City, I've been our fantasy draft, I've been kinda, like, betting a little more than I normally do, and it's not even about the money, it's about the time spent. I'm researching players, spending that kinda time. When my wife and I are home at night, I'm, like, looking at my phone, trying to see, like, what the scores of the games are, and that's the real problem. Like, yes, money is an issue, but, like, I'm not betting huge amounts of money. That's not the issue for
yeah,
me. It's the time, and it's the obsession, and I've gotten that obsession with substances where I have to have enough in the house, whether it's kratom, alcohol, weed, whatever it may be, pills. I will count pills, like that was an issue, I mean, I at my worst, I was prescribed Forrest. I was prescribed 100 milligrams of morphine, extended release twice a day, and 16 oxycodone a day, all prescribed. Um,
yeah.
It's
That
hard it's hard not to be an addict when you're given all that, because then at some point, you just don't know if the pain's real or your body's telling you, "I need that."
Yeah. And what your injury was that from sports, your injury?
Yeah, I played football since I was in 4th grade all the way through, high school, and in college, I was just playing basketball one day before my sophomore year, and summer I was there. Life was amazing, life was great. I was, after my freshman year of kinda, like, partying a little too much and I didn't really have any issues. I wasn't taking any pills, like, I was weed was a little excessive and drinking was excessive, but it wasn't like it wasn't crazy. You know, it was like in my mind under control. But when I broke my back, when I went up for playing basketball one day, go for a rebound, come down, no one touched me. It was like someone deflated my back. And
Yeah. You went to
they
Texas, right?
went to
Where'd you
Texas
go
and they
for?
misdiagnosed me for months, gave me pills. I was very miserable. Finally had a back surgery that winter, went back to school on a whole bunch of pills. And it just, I never was able to get like college was not a fun time for me. Cause I was in pain, I was on pills, drinking, smoking weed, you know, like it was not, I was not in a good place and my back break, you know, rupturing 2 discs really. I was 19, man. I was a kid. I didn't know anything. And
Yeah.
you know,
That was
that's
in Texas, all the pills were prescribed and stuff? That was the state of Texas, right? Obviously, because
that
everyone
was.
always says, "I'm from Florida." Everyone's like, "You go to Florida, you can get whatever you want," but I'm like,
Ooh,
I think it's
yeah.
every state. I feel like there's
It used
stories
to
in
be.
every state with pain, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I mean, and again, were they doing anything wrong? I mean, I ruptured 2 discs. I guess the issue I have with, you know, I do think painkillers should be prescribed. People deal with pain. The issue is there is no plan to get them off of it. And I had no plan. There was just, "Here's pills. We're gonna keep giving you pills." I'm 19. What do I know? I'm gonna take anything a doctor gives me. I didn't realize at that point that doctors are just people. That was a hard realization I made later in my life, you know, like, doctors are just people. They're not these, like, amazing, you know, on a pedestal people that you gotta look up to, like, they are fallible, they make mistakes, and they just, you know, they use the tools they have, and pills are a big part of their tool set.
Hey, remind me, there's somebody famous in the NFL that in high school, weren't you a cornerback? What
Oh,
was
no, I was a middle linebacker, and I played against Matthew Stafford in college.
Matthew Stafford, the
Yeah. I mean,
current
high school,
quarterback
excuse
for
me.
the Rams.
Yeah, yeah,
Current
and,
quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams, and what happened?
he
You
was a sophomore, I was a junior, and,
Yeah.
it was the first big game, like, I got in. I was playing I was on varsity my junior year, and I got in the game, and I blitzed on one play, and I light him up, Forrest. I mean, I light him up like I don't know if I've ever hit anybody else, and I landed on top of him, which would be illegal today. You know, you can't land with your full weight, and I hear cheering, and I'm so excited because I think like, "Oh my gosh, interception, fumble. I made the play, maybe just a huge sack." And I get up and I realize he threw a 50-yard touchdown pass like I was nothing. The replay, I'm like right up here, and he just casually, you know, he's a
Yeah.
sophomore. Yeah, you knew right then this kid was special. You heard about it, but like, oh man. Yeah,
Oh, you'd
that
already
was my
heard, like,
brush.
you had heard going into the game, like, "Hey, this kid's good," right? I mean,
We
obviously.
knew. I mean,
Yeah.
for a sophomore to start at Highland Park, which is a prestigious
Texas.
football school in
Yeah.
Texas, in
Just
Dallas,
Texas in general. I know Florida,
in
Texas,
general.
California, it's the,
Yeah.
football factories, but yeah.
He was hyped. He was the star. And he lit us up. And that 50-yard touchdown pass was over, my friend Matt Harris, who started at Arkansas at safety years
Oh,
later.
wow.
So it's like, he was just that good and in high school, and he was that good in college, and now he's future Hall of Famer, and, it's crazy he's still playing, whereas, you know, I'm just icing my back and swimming, you know?
He has a bad back, but he's still playing in the NFL. Like, that's the I
It's
watched them. I
remarkable.
went to the first game. I watched him. They're like, "I don't know if he's gonna be any good." And it's like, "Yeah, was he like 40, 41, something like that?" Like, he's
No, no, I'm 38, he's 37.
okay, still old for the NFL though. That's like,
Yes, very elderly for the NFL.
yeah. The what was I gonna say? Oh, football. That's what I'm on the ramp. So I'm in the fantasy football league. I like how you keep referring to me in the third person sometimes. It's fun for the people that are listening. You're like, Forrest. I don't remember what you're
Yeah,
doing. Yeah. It's fun. I
yeah.
like it. No one's done that yet. I'm enjoying it. Um, Jake and I are in a fantasy football league. I'm gonna do it right now. Jake and I are in a fantasy I've been in the league, I guess, because you said 9 years, so I think it's been closer to 11, or because almost the entire time I've been in LA, and I've been in LA 12 years.
Yeah, it started in when I got there, I think it started and I was doing Hooters with Jimmy and Terrell and all those guys. It started probably I moved out there in 2012, 2013, 2014, I think it started. It had to have been one of those years. So probably like 11 years, and I actually left the league because I was in too many. It was like a 10-person league at the time. It wasn't like
Yeah.
it was just like whatever. But then during COVID, like Jimmy and I were always friends, and then we got closer during COVID. It just happened. It's really right before he blew up, right before his special went out, all this kind of stuff. We started hanging out and
Jimmy
kind
O
of had a
Yang, by the way, for anyone that's
yes,
listening, Jimmy O
that's our
Yang, the
commissioner.
comedian
He
actor, yeah.
takes fantasy super seriously.
Yes.
I mean, he goes all out. He performed in Atlantic City this year and got us all free rooms, and so we all went to Atlantic City. I mean, this league has become, I'm in 2 leagues now. One is my college league that I've been in for 20 years. Love those guys. It's a great way to like stay in touch with them across the nation. I don't talk to some of them all through the year, but then fantasy comes along. It's great. But with our league, I feel like everybody just chose a few years ago to make this important. Right when I got back in it, I came back in COVID. I thought my other league was going to postpone, so Jimmy let me co his team, and then the next year, I guess they kicked out the one guy who like wasn't really in and like made bad trades, and now our league is a bunch of guys who are very committed to it. Like we get together twice a year, once for the draft, and we've gone to like an old West town. We've gone to Atlantic City. We rented a house in Los Angeles, right by Jimmy's, a few years ago. And then we get together a second time last year in March. We got together to watch our friend Dr. Phil, the loser of last year, sing "God Bless the USA" in front of one of Jimmy's like 3,000 people audiences, and it was
Yeah.
awesome.
It
Got to
was
hang
actually
in.
in January in San Diego, yeah, it was, like Lee Greenwood, we had him dress up in a flannel shirt, and, Jimmy, like we said, this league's very important to him. When he was promoting his show, Interior Chinatown, he was on Seth Meyers, and he did promote the show, but I wanna say they talked about fantasy football the rest of the time because I guess Seth Meyers is really into fantasy
Big
football,
fantasy guy. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
so that's one of my other late night credits because he held up a picture of all of us, and I was like, "Wow, I was on Seth Meyers too."
Yeah,
Um,
there we go.
but
That's a
I
promo right there.
wanted to bring it up because so gambling, I'm a gambling
Yes.
addict, and gambling is, they define as whether for money or not, where
Mhm.
the outcome is uncertain and depends on chance, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
I, I've brought this up on this podcast
I've
before,
always
and
wondered about it with you too.
people have asked me too, like, well, isn't that gambling? And I said, yeah, well, I haven't since I've been um gambling, gambling since I've been in a fantasy football league. I have not collected. We get coins, not chips. I have not collected any of those in any of the rooms. And I tell people in the room that I do that. And some people get upset. Some people just don't care. Some people,
Yeah.
um, and, uh, and because technically by the letter of the law of like programs like that, I'm not sober. Right.
Mhm.
The same way that, and you were just talking about being completely sober. There are people that are California sober and they smoke weed, but
Yes.
they're not drinking or doing heroin or all these things that are way worse.
Or people who take
Um,
kratom and just don't drink. I mean, look, the whole
yeah,
point of
and
like of AA is to stop alcoholism. Like
yeah,
that's so.
yeah.
But for me, it's about being completely sober. Like that's the whole.
But I'm glad that I have the honor too, because and even the things you just said, because what I tell people with it is I said this league to me, I mean it I know what feels like gambling and doesn't feel like gambling, and I know what feels like gambling and then affects my life in a negative way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we put money in at the beginning and then some you can win money at the end. But that's not why I'm in the league. I'm in the league
No.
because we get together. The 2 times that we get together, by the way, um, last time I was in Dallas, we saw each other. I'm gonna be there in October at Mic Drop Mania. Or I think it's Mic Drop Plano. Come see me.
Mic drop plan. Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I'm getting people. I'm excited. And
There's
no, but
other people.
that's we get to see each
I'll go
other.
to Jimmy's house or other houses, I'll watch games. Um,
You
the guy in
just
the
with
league,
Christian.
Christian. Yeah, the guy in the
Yeah.
league, Christian, that everyone thought we hated each other because we were just, like, going back and forth in the chat. We go to concerts together, have dinner, like, hang out, like, and I look at the league more as a community kind of thing of friends and friendships and stuff that have developed over the year, and that's why I enjoy it because there are people that, like, first of all, are super supportive. I go to San Diego where a lot of our crew is.
Yeah.
Um,
They show
they'll
up.
like pack the room, yeah, for me to come out like and stuff. And And so I'm not making an excuse for this. I do I if someone's like, "Hey, are you completely free of gambling?" I'm like, "Well, by the letter of the law, no." But the last time that I went out and gambled, last December, I was in the fantasy football league, but that's not why I went out and gambled. I went out and gambled because was not I didn't put basically what happened was I there was some money from a sale of a house
Yeah.
that I had, and there was some interest that they weren't giving me back. And without being boring, I went back and forth with these guys, sent emails. I said, "You guys owe me this money," and I had this victory where they said to me, um, "Okay, we're going to give you back." Oh, I want to say it was like $10 or $11,000. It was a
Nice.
significant amount of money.
Yeah.
That literally, I that victory and that money hit my account when I was driving to Las Vegas. And
So it was like extra money.
When I
Yeah.
go to Las Vegas, I work there a lot.
Mhm.
I make sure that I don't have access to cash, this, that, whatever. And just so happens I I I it hit an account that still was a brick and mortar. I don't have the account anymore. It was like the last account that I got rid of that's a brick and mortar. I have really shitty banks. Shout out SoFi.
Yeah.
Because because I don't want to have brick and mortar places where I can just walk in and get the cash. I want to be able to leave
Yeah.
cards and do stuff. Um, and I had a bunch of other shit that was going on too. Like mentally, I wasn't going to meetings. I wasn't talking to people. I was like shrinking my world, like as we talked about and stuff.
Yeah.
And I went back out and gambled and stuff. And so I'm not making excuses for this league or anything like that, but I wanted
No,
to
no, it's
I wanted to highlight the importance of community, which I think is good, but also
yeah.
tell people like, hey, it's about how you feel and it's about whether you think this is affecting your life negatively or not.
Mhm.
And so, anyways, I gambled all that money away. Fucking,
No, no.
I spent 6 months, maybe longer, fighting to get that money, and then lost it in about 2 days.
God.
Fucking terrible, you know. And
That's how it goes sometimes, man, and
yeah,
that's how you
yeah,
know, like, that's the thing, though, I'm glad you brought that up, like, it can happen quickly. You let up on being vigilant, on reaching out to other people, on working a program, on these types of things. That's how it got me out twice. I pushed things away that were helpful, and I didn't make the effort. I'm actually this weekend, I'm actually going to a convention on a lake. First time I've ever done that. I've never done that before, and I'm very excited because I'm trying to do more work in a program and stay closer and get to know more people, make my life bigger so that like when things get like that, I'll have more people to call. I'll have people who know me. If for any reason I stray, when I went out, it took me over a year to get back twice, and I don't. If whatever happens, I don't want to. I want to get right back in. I'm working so that I don't even have to deal with that. But I things happen like you just talked about, and I also want to shout out. You asked me a question in the pre. Uh, like, what's a small thing that somebody did that helped me more than they know? And I don't know if I'm jumping ahead
go
here,
ahead, man.
Forrest.
Yeah, there's no rules here.
So you've had a guest on this podcast who sponsored me, and I don't know if I should call him out. I mean, he's open about his stuff, but he's the man, and he's gotten me sober 3 times. And
Yeah,
this last time, he called me before he was coming into Dallas to do a show, and just was like, "Hey, you want to go hit a meeting?" And he had no idea how low I was at that point. I hadn't talked to him in a while. I was extremely low. I was struggling. I really wanted to I wanted to stop what I was doing. And I went with him. And then a year to the day, a couple weeks ago, the meeting he took me to, I got to chair it and celebrate a year of sobriety.
oh, nice.
And he's fantastic. Like, he's helped me more than he probably knows. And I've told him that, but like, actually talked to him yesterday. He called me to check in. Um, but it was a small thing. Just being like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
reaching out to somebody. Like that's I guess what I'm saying is to people listening to this who maybe have a friend who's dealing with addiction or a loved one or themselves, it's like taking a small action can change everything. And taking a small action every day can add up. It's like small things. Like it's like they don't feel big at the time, but then like you look at it a month later, you're like, holy shit, like wow, I've made progress. Life
Yeah,
is
and
better.
you you don't wanna shout him out, that's fine. He's on the
No,
podcast.
look, I'll shut out. It's Andy Haynes. He's the fucking man, okay? He's the man. Andy has gotten me sober 3 times,
Yeah.
and, he's just talk about a good guy. Talk about someone who's always the same when you talk to them. Like, you mentioned me earlier. Like, he's just a great person, and there's a lot of those people who deal like that's what you realize as you get closer in some of these programs, or you just open about like when you asked me to do this podcast, I'm not really doing stand up anymore, and I'm not really promoting myself like I used to, and I'm working in the business world, but it's also like I'm not trying to hide who I am and what I do. It's not the first thing I tell someone who's not like in a program. Like, hi, I'm Jake.
Oh, yeah.
This is my story. But it's important for me, I think, to be open and honest because you never know who it's going to affect. Like it'd be cool, I don't expect it, but if somebody messaged me on Instagram from doing this, just be like, hey, I liked your story. I'm dealing with this. That'd mean the world to me because it'd allow me to help somebody. And like that's if I'm not doing that, I'm just thinking about myself and that I'm not living. And I'm glad you brought up fantasy. We've talked about it a lot, but like that, with betting and everything, like I obsess about fantasy. I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday because the waivers, Wednesday morning, just to see who got picked up and who I could pick up. Like I'll be crazy. I'll obsess about it. I'll spend way too much time on it. But it's about the connection. We have a text group. We're always talking in it. We see each other. Like it's a that makes my life more full having this group. I mean, like I've developed a completely like a very solid relationship and friendship with you just because of this league. I didn't know you before
Yeah.
I joined, and same with like Christian and Taylor and PJ and I knew each other from Hooters, but we've developed a much closer relationship. I went to his
Yeah.
wedding, like it's Tech and all these guys. It's and Dr. Phil and Bobby and Jeremy. I'm just shouting out everyone at this point. It's I don't
Dr.
know.
Phil is not in our league, by the way. His name is Phil, and he's a doctor.
Yes,
But,
it's not the Dr. Phil. It's another Dr.
someone
Phil.
listening right now, Dr. Phil is here. You didn't bring it
Yeah,
up yet?
no. But that
He's
Dr. Phil is very accomplished. Look, he got to sing in front of 3,000 people. He also won on The Price is Right, won a
Oh,
car,
yeah, yeah, no, and he's a doctor. He's a
and he's a
practicing
doctor. That's the most impressive.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
practicing doc.
But it's like I've made friendships with all these guys and developed stronger friendships with people. And like that's I don't know, that's the point of life to me is like building relationships with people.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I don't know, man. I want to
It's a
be
cool
the
group
man.
too, by the way.
It's
It's
a
a
cool
very
group.
diverse group, and I don't mean diverse in the fact that well, I guess it's diverse in ethnicity too.
It's
I wasn't
very
even
diverse in
referring to
ethnicities
that at
too.
all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost like a United Nation yeah, yeah,
No, but we got lawyer, we got a
yeah,
doctor, we got a
people are
producer, we
all
got
around the world
comedians.
constantly doing stuff and doing, I think as far as like Jimmy's a comedian, I'm a comedian. You don't do much comedy anymore.
No, I did comedy for 10
Terrell
years.
still does sets and stuff here and there, but
And
other
Tech
than that, it's
DJs and does comedy.
yeah.
Tech's just Tech, man. He's
Tech,
he's
by the
just
way, is
Tech Holmes, the champion.
yeah, you might know him from the chat. Wait,
The
the
challenge,
challenge on
uh,
MTV.
uh, yeah, and that Ryan Reynolds
Van
movie,
Wilder, Van
Van
Wilder, his
Wilder.
name's Van
Yeah, yeah.
Wilder, and yeah, because then it's funny. Like I sometimes I don't remember. Like maybe there's a picture I'll share. So I
No, but
forget
like
what it
in
is.
Atlantic City, like
That's
people
what.
our age, like in their like late 30s, like my age, went up to him. They recognized him from
Yeah,
Van Wilder, and it's just like it's cool when that happens. Like it is. But we have like everybody's very interesting in our group, and they're all just different. Like it's
yeah,
some showbiz, some not, and I don't know that kind of like explains my life perfectly. Like I'm trying to figure out where I fit in this world, and this last year has done a lot of that, and I feel very like I feel comfortable about who I am, man. And that's the first time I could say that in a long time. Like I like me.
Yeah, and I think community, like we're talking about community just in our league and stuff, and that's why I really value it because I had done, I've been in fantasy football, then I stopped for years and years, and that was the first one I joined for many, many years, and I did it because Jimmy asked me, and I'm friends with him, and then I'm glad I did. But I'm in relation to addiction community, man. I really, it's with relation to comedians. You just brought it up with Andy and I'm doing this. I didn't specifically say I'm going to do this podcast only with comedians, but I've
Yeah.
had a few non-comedians on. Some of them were, like psychotherapists. Guy wrote a book. Jonathan Cohen wrote a book. I had one guy that wasn't a comedian on and an actor, but there is this huge community in comedy for sobriety and addiction. Way more so with alcoholism, drug addiction, things like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
We've
but
lost a
still,
lot of
I'm
friends over the years. Like, I mean, like
yeah,
it's kind of amazing and sad how many people, pass away from addiction one way or the other that we just
yeah.
know who've been comedians. And it's, and yes, I mean, I got sober because of other comedian friends who got sober. And like, it was just a network right away that I could like go to meetings with and like hang out with. And, it was a benefit, but it also was a detriment because I didn't get to know other people who weren't comedians. Because it's like, "Oh, I have my friends, I don't need to." And that's what I'm doing differently this time, and it's been it's really good for me. I'm actually, like, trying to build relationships inside this program that I'm doing, um, because I think you need to do that. I think it will connect you more and just I don't know, like with our fantasy league, it just gives you people you could reach out to and build relationships with, and it's
Yeah,
harder
and
as you get older.
community is another way of just saying what we've been talking about too, about making your life bigger,
Yeah,
and not being smaller. Because you mentioned making it bigger, going to this convention on a lake. Um, I've done retreats, with relations to my addiction stuff. With retreats, such a weird. What retreat sounds?
no, it's I like retreat actually more than
You do?
convention. I think
Oh,
this is
you
more of a
do? I
retreat that
like
I'm going I
convention more
do.
than retreat. Retreat sounds
So
religious-y
funny.
to me, and I'm not religious, so that's why. Yeah.
Yeah,
But whatever word you like. It's a group of people, and you're expanding your world and getting out from just that, like, you're by yourself alone drinking at a bar. I'm sitting at a blackjack table playing by myself, or now even worse, just on your phone looking at it, or you're just, so I
you're
think
just
that's like such an
yeah,
important thing is expanding your world, making it bigger and that support in the community and stuff. I think that's I really like how this podcast works because I always just, ask these questions at the end now and stuff, but I always just kind of like ramble around with it. But it always seems to find some sort of um
the theme.
yeah, theme or tone or whatever, which and I don't know. This is the 31st episode, so I'm assuming at some point when and the couple of hundreds are gonna be like, yeah, we've already talked about this. So so
We'll get there
far.
eventually.
Yeah, right now I'm like, this is cool. I didn't think about
Yeah.
that.
No, but
Um,
for me, it the whole thing is just like my addiction makes my life small,
Yeah.
and I'm not that type of person. I'm someone who likes to be around people, and I wanna live like, I wanna live. And, I honestly I don't know, I told you how much I was prescribed at one point of morphine and oxycodone, like, I could easily be dead by both substances, multiple substances, or
Yeah.
honestly with my depression and addiction, like by my own hand, frankly, if I'm being completely honest. And I'm grateful I'm not, and I'm grateful like I'm living a really good life. But I don't know. I'm sure you've had talks about like, higher powers and faith and that kind of stuff. Um, but for me, whether it's the universe, whatever it may be, like I'm grateful that like I'm not dead, and I don't know how I'm not, and there's so many other people that I know have passed away from this disease, and it's that kind of pushes me too to like want to stay sober so I continue to live and like I give back, man, like be of service and just like be the person I want to be, you know?
Yeah. 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 Could have been dead. Could have been rich. Could have sold all those pills, Jake. You didn't think about
I
that.
know, right? I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I would have never, never.
But you're in
uh,
Texas too. I mean, it's easy to kill yourself in Texas. So it's yeah. It's
Yeah,
versus
not
like
to
I'm
get
not,
a downer
well,
here, but
yeah.
in Florida, you just go jump into a swamp with a bunch of gators, right? That's the solution there.
I don't know. I don't know if gators would just immediately kill you. They'd have to be certain times of years. Maybe they're hungry, this and that. I used to work, as a biologist, marine biologist, but one of the things I did
Mhm.
was like water quality uh testing, monitoring. We did it for Biscayne Bay, which is this huge body of water out that connects to the ocean, and then all the tributaries that lead into that, everything comes from the Everglades. So there's all these canals that are most of them are man-made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and there's some natural water, like Miami River and stuff like that, that dumps into the bay. But we would test all the way up those too, and we go all the way out to the Everglades. So we'd go all the way from the bay to like 20, 30 miles inland, and we'd be looking at different nutrient runoffs from like agricultural fields, things like that and stuff. But when we were in the Everglades, we use this thing called God, what the hell is it called? I don't remember. Niskin, which is like, there's a couple different terms for it, but it basically is like it's made out of a certain material that can be decontaminated, and you drop it into the water at certain levels, and then you drop like a weight down this rope and it triggers it to close. And that way you're getting the water from that depth in the
Yeah.
water column, and you're sampling, right? And in order to do that, first you like put it in the water and you swish it out 3 times so that you're getting, you're rinsing the water that you're sampling with. So when we're in Everglades, we had tons of training where it was like, all right, you got to watch out for snakes. You got to watch out for alligators. You got to watch out for XYZ. Mosquitoes. Sometimes we would have a complete mosquito net outfit. I mean, head to toe.
You
And
don't
you
want Nile
couldn't even,
disease, Nile virus, right?
yeah, I couldn't even see the person I was
West
working with
Nile.
because mosquitoes were on their, like, they were thick with it, but we're in these like net things operating. It's crazy. But so we're around a lot of alligators, and we had to like be careful about that and stuff. So you'd always were like looking when you went near like a shoreline or something. You're like, make sure you check for gators because you did it so much. You'd have to remember. So
Yeah.
sometimes we'd be putting this Niskin in the water and swishing it, and there'd be like 10 gators there, and they wouldn't do shit. And we'd be up on like a little platform area just to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they wouldn't do anything. They're just sitting there in the sun. It's a cold day. Their bellies are full, whatever. And other times, as soon as that sounds like a distressed fish or an animal or an otter, whatever. And they just come cruising over. I'm using my back scratcher. They come cruising over, and we would have to like get the water really quick because one time one of them got bit. Like they bit and like pulled on and did like a roll with the Niskin. And so
Oh
my
man.
point is it depends what day you catch the gator on. You could jump into the water
That's what that
and
whole story was. It's just to basically say the gators will do what they want. That
look,
whole
I'm not telling you to jump in the water
interesting
with a bunch of
story.
gators. Yeah. I had a
Uh
point for it. I don't remember what it was, and I was trying to keep saying stuff till I remembered the point. But,
the point is Forrest used to be
don't
in a
demonize
complete other
alligators.
field. Don't demonize alligators. They can be sweet too.
I mean, you ever watch? There's like some guys on Instagram, and like
Yes, I do.
they'll go diving in the Everglades, and they're like, here's I'm in two camps with those people, but like in some camps, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like you're showing that they can be more docile and stuff, but you're also like just invading.
Encouraging
I,
people.
I don't
Yeah.
like people that invade animal spaces. I like
Uh
seeing nature passively. Like I don't
yeah.
want to like come in and jump on top of something or be there and like it's sleeping and then pick it up and it's a fucking lizard and it's like what the
Yeah, yeah.
fuck? Just it's in the middle of the night. I'm just like, bro, let that thing sleep. Like
Right?
just you want your clicks. Um,
Gotta get those clicks, bro.
all right, let's ask the 8 lucky questions. You've
Let's
already
do it.
answered the first one, so it's only
Yes.
7 left now.
Nice.
You already answered what's a small thing someone did that helped
Yeah.
you more than they know.
Andy,
Maybe
just
they
a
know
small
now.
call. He
I
knows.
don't.
I've made sure that he knows. I've made sure he knows.
Okay. What song best describes your addiction?
Oh man, I'm gonna be you might call me basic. I got two here. First off, Chumbawamba thumb thumping.
Wait, tub thumping. Tub
Tub
thumping.
thumping. I don't even know the name. Yeah, but I get knocked down, but I get up again. That describes it, man. I just that line, bro. And then there's
Yeah.
also I take a whiskey drink, I take a vodka drink. Like it's just like I'll take whatever. But I am someone who's been knocked down quite a bit, and I've had to like I had a not only the back surgery, but I had a inguinal hernia, and they botched that surgery. And for an entire year, I was in crippling pain in the front in my groin that no doctors, they just were like, "No, I think you're making it up," or "No, I think you're pill seeking," or maybe something's wrong, but it looks fine. The MRI is fine." Until another doctor like came in and was like, "You know what? I believe you. I'll go in and see what happened." Turns out the mesh that they put in for the first time wrapped around the spermatic cord, which is why for a year, anytime I got an erection, I was in crippling pain. A year.
Wow. Wow.
So I get knocked down, man, but I get up again. And
First
yeah,
of all, I wish you were still doing stand-up because that's a hilarious I don't even know if you ever did it, but
I talked about it. Yeah, it was
every
brutal.
time I got an erection, that was
Every
insane.
time. It was so painful. Oh my God, it was brutal. And then afterwards, it took a while for like things to get normal again, like without the pain. It's a lot of fun
Yeah,
to deal with, man. But I'm good now. Life's good. Also, you get what you give, New Radicals. That's another song.
yeah.
Um, I'm showing my age with these songs here.
By the
Uh,
way, I really like this question when I ask people it for I like all these questions. I think it elicits good answers. They elicit good answers, but, um, I also like it because it shows me, like, songs that people are listening to that I never
yeah,
would
it's
or at least
absurd.
you're humming saying around the house because it's stuck in your head as, like, an
Yeah,
earworm.
yeah.
Chumbawamba, nice. Like,
Chumbawamba.
people don't wanna admit that they like that song, but
I
everybody
wrote
knows
it
it.
down. I was like, "Am I gonna say this on this podcast? Am I gonna really like admit?" But it's like it's the truth. It's the truth. And "Get What You Give," another song that kind of has always uplifted me. And it's like, I guess that's more like my life in sobriety. It's like you get what you give.
I
The more
like
you,
that you
yeah.
were concerned about whether more about whether you were gonna say you like Chumbawamba versus I get pain when I have an erection.
I mean, that's just it's fact. Like that's like again, man. That's just another thing I had to deal with.
Yeah. Alright, what's the dumbest excuse you've ever told yourself to justify your addiction?
This is a good one. No one else knows what my pain is like.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Especially in the program I do. It's like, well, they didn't have surgery at 19. They don't understand. They don't know. They don't get it. They don't know like the back pain I'm dealing with right now. They don't understand. Uh, the best thing about the group I go to now, it's a lot of older people and they all understand. They all have stories about pain. They all deal with it. And it has been so great for me to hear their stories. Like, they're 80, but they have so many health things, but how they deal with it really like it hits me. It hits me because like I used to go to groups in LA that were like younger and hip and nobody understood. So the
Yeah,
biggest lie I always told myself was like, no one knows what my pain's like. I could do all this other stuff. They don't get it. Now it's just like it's not the case. It's just dumb. I just told myself it allowed me to make myself different, unique, special. And when I think that way, I'm gonna use something.
yeah, the movie, our own movie that we always play in our
Yeah.
heads of yeah.
Mm.
What do you think is the worst addiction?
This simple heroin because you're gonna die.
Hmm, eh.
I mean, it's heroin, bro. Like you might get some fentanyl in there. Like how is that not the worst addiction? I mean, cocaine's a hell of a drug. That's bad because you're gonna spend all your money and you're just gonna like keep going, going, going. And cocaine's bad, man. There's not good addictions. Like,
It's like when people say, "Oh, you got the good cancer."
yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
a
still cancer. You're gonna survive. You just gotta do the radiation, but it's still, you still got
yeah,
to go through it. It's not. You got the
yeah.
good AIDS. You're fine. It's no, man. It's
You'd be surprised though that there's a lot of different answers for that question. I almost thought about taking it out when I first started. I'm like, you know what?
no,
I
it's a
like
good
the
one.
answers to that. I get lots of different
Because
answers.
even giving that answer, it's like, well, now I'm thinking like cocaine might be worse because
Hack. Heroin's a
like
hack answer.
it's a hack answer, bro. Simple, it's easy, but it's also terrifying. Heroin. I had a relative who got into heroin, and I think that's what stopped me from ever going down that road. Uh, I would never, and I could say that because I saw what it did. But it's also like I understand people who get on painkillers, they get cut off, and then they go down that road because you can't just stop. It's very hard. Like,
Yeah.
that's why these doctors need to have an exit plan with painkillers especially. And it's actually interesting. I saw Alex Smith's wife, Alex Smith, the quarterback who
Mhm.
destroyed his leg, almost had it amputated.
Yeah.
They had like she's kind of dedicated herself to this like pain program. And it's all about like having a plan. And I think that's something that is essential for all these doctors. So,
Oh, really?
you know,
Based on just watching her husband,
her husband, like
go
the
through
amount
all
of
this stuff? Alex
yeah,
Smith? Huh,
yeah.
I
And
didn't
I'm
know
sure he
about
was
that
on a
one.
lot of painkillers because he literally almost lost his leg. And he's a football player.
Elizabeth Berry is her name.
Hmm. Yeah.
Very
And I forget
attractive, very
exactly.
surprising that an NFL quarterback's wife is attractive.
No, I'm very
Um,
surprised that a very attractive NFL quarterback, you know.
yeah,
Alex Smith, good looking dude, bro. And came back and played. But yeah, like people who don't have these pain plans, a lot of people who get put on pills end up on heroin because it's cheap, it's out there, but then you don't know if it's fentanyl. I was on fentanyl briefly. I didn't like it. It was a patch for me. And then I got on the morphine when I was dealing with that was after the botched surgery, after the fix. I was in a lot of pain with my back and the front. It was
yeah.
really bad. Yeah.
I see all the stuff she's done, that's pretty cool.
No, it's cool. I mean, look, it's impact your life, and she's out there like actually trying to help people deal with like their pain programs, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and has the platform and has yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I because we had talked that's why I was even asking about the sports thing. I know other people that got addicted to pills because it's just like you said, there's no exit plan for it, really. When my mom I think I've told this story before, but my mom, she passed away from blood cancer, and by the time she passed away, she had fentanyl patches to deal with the pain. Blood cancer affects your whole body. It affects your bones. Your bones, you're basically just can shatter at any or
yeah.
just any time. And so she had all these fractures. Sometimes she had fractures and didn't even know about them because she was in so much pain. But
Uh,
she was on such a high level of fentanyl that when I would have to go get it for her sometimes, it was really difficult to get because you would go to a store and they wouldn't carry that all the time. The patches,
they
just the
they
patch.
don't carry it, and
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 then they're
they
not
make
letting
you feel
tell you.
so bad. The pharmacists, like it's tough, man. It's tough. Pharmacists can make you feel very guilty. They can make you feel like you're like, oh, you're just an addict. You have all these issues.
Yeah,
And with
yeah.
with pain pills, there have been like there are times like I've been in so much pain, like I need them. I have a tendency towards addiction, sure,
Well, this is what I was
but
gonna say. So
yeah,
my mom suffered because of addicts, of the all the so because people, are prescribed these and doctors don't have routes to take them off and then become
yeah,
addicts, but it also there's a trickle down effect where, like, I watched my mom suffer one time because we had to transfer her to a different hospital after a surgery she had on her leg. She had a rod put in her leg and stuff. And we kept like all of her like this document of all the drugs she was taking, not just pain pills, but the whole regimen. And it was
so
long.
much,
It was
yeah,
long.
yeah.
Um, and there was one hospital, the hospital that we got her into when she was doing this recovery wouldn't give her that amount of pain stuff because they thought she was drug seeking. And
It's
because
so
there's no
frustrating.
burn by all that other stuff. And so my mom just sat there in pain for like days until I like had to literally almost threaten to like fight somebody and be like, this is cruel, like what's happening and stuff. So yeah.
It's brutal, and it really it's a fine line because these doctors are so terrified about, like, getting investigated and getting their license taken away, and the thing is, people need these painkillers. Like,
Yeah.
there are gonna be times when I need painkillers. The issue is I need to take them as prescribed. Like, I'm very likely gonna have a fusion surgery in the future. I'm very likely gonna have another back surgery, might have other kind of surgeries, and, like, I'm not like, I don't want to take these meds, but like, not as extreme as your mom, I will be in significant pain, and if I
Yeah.
have to, I give them to my wife, and I take them as prescribed, and, like, there are ways to get through this. Um, that's the problem, though, there is no exit plan, and literally after you're on these pills for, like, 2 weeks, like, y you start not knowing if it's the pain that makes you wanna take this pill or if your body's like, "You're in pain, take this pill," but you're not in pain. It's it really messes with your mind, man. And then like these pharmacists and some of these doctors, they make you feel like you're just a drug seeker
Oh,
when
yeah.
in
Big
reality you're just like I have addictive tendencies. I'm an addict for sure. I also have had legitimate pain, and I shouldn't have to just like suffer and sit in pain because I've because at 19 I was throwing all these pills and like changed my life and like I became addicted because I was just given all the stuff, and like
yeah. And by the way, if you are fighting cancer for over a decade, like my mom was, and you go to a pharmacy that you're not that they're not familiar with you, when she goes to the one that people knew her, um,
yeah,
you look like you are a drug addict. Like you look like you don't look
you don't
you,
look
like
good.
so people would I would see like that happen to my mom. And that's why I would go for her a lot of times. I'm just gonna go and I'd have her licenses now, whatever, and
Yeah, yeah.
do that. But so
But
there's that
even
whole
then they give you the whole runaround. It's just
yeah,
it's not an easy system, and I don't have the answer because like there are addicts who, abuse and drug seek and get pills from doctors, and I understand wanting to stop that. But also it's like by limiting these pills, it's forcing people to go buy them on the streets and they're buying fentanyl and they're killing themselves. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm lucky I never had to do I have legitimate like I could go right now get an MR, show my MRI to a doctor and they will write me
yeah. I bet.
Percocets, like, no problem. But
By the way,
luckily, I have I have a doctor I see, a pain doctor knows, like, I don't wanna take that, and, like, we have a very good, like I take a nerve medication that's extremely effective for me.
yeah.
Um, so if you're in a lot of pain, I'm telling you, Lyrica has been a game changer for me. Doesn't get me high at all.
Don't take Tylenol though. It'll give you autism. Mhm.
Oh, man. Oh, god, autism.
And I was saying, by the way, I was very lucky that pills and that kind of stuff wasn't ever my thing because when I was younger, I had tried all those things we talked about, muscle relaxers, pain pills. It's not like, and, like someone gave me one and like, it was like, I guess I had a good time, or whatever, but it just wasn't luckily the thing that drew me like as an addiction because I had tons of access to it when I was with my mom. And like, I mean, and even after she passed away,
It's
there
just
was
there after she passed
bags
away.
full
It's
of it that I
yours.
brought to these disposal places that I
Dude,
was
good for you, because that's
uh,
not easy. That's not easy for a lot of people I know with addiction. They care for an elderly parent, and then there's these pills that are just there after they pass away,
luckily,
and it's
like I
like,
said, luckily that just wasn't a draw for me. Like, I know
good.
the things that are addictive to me, and pretty much it's gambling and food. That would be my
Well,
big
so
thing.
also now for me, like, me, like, I'm all about these are breakers. They're an elevated zen. So I wanna
Yeah,
tell this story real quick because this is actually funny. Um, First time Forrest invited me over to his house, I was very nervous. Like, I was sober at the time, but I wasn't, like, working a program. I was, like, very uncomfortable. And it was just gonna be me, Forrest, and Jimmy, and then your ex-girlfriend and your dog, and hanging out in your, the unit you just converted, watching football.
yeah.
Chill. But I was so nervous about it. I was, like, so anxious, uh, that I went and got some I didn't want to vape, so I got some nicotine. I went and got Zyn for the first time before I went for your house. And now I talk about addiction. I do like my Zyns, my nicotine pouches. Because I'm
Why
not
were you
perfect,
nervous?
man.
Why were
Huh?
you nervous? Why were you
I
nervous?
was because I just I deal with anxiety. I was just nervous. It's funny now because it's ridiculous that I would ever be nervous to hang out with like you and Jimmy. Like I was just I think at that point I was just very uncomfortable in my own skin.
Mm.
It had nothing to and it was just like going to hang out with anybody. I would have been like, I can't do this. But I just remember that night vividly because I was so uncomfortable and yet I wanted to come hang out and I didn't want to like, I drink or smoke or take, like I wanted to go out and, like I took some nicotine and I use the nicotine now and it's not the best, but as far as addictions go, it's like I'm grateful that I'm addicted to nicotine. I'm not smoking weed. I'm not drinking. I'm not taking Percocets and Vicodin, not taking mushrooms, not taking kratom. But like we're talking addiction here. My addiction comes out in all kinds of ways.
Yeah,
And that's, I'm not like, I think I'm glad to mention that because it's like, I'm not perfect, man. I'm still like addicted to coffee, you know, I take this nicotine patches. Like I'm just trying to live my life the best I can, and one day I will get off nicotine, but it's not my concern right now. My concern is staying off these other things that have ruined my life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What one word would you use to describe your addiction or
Exhausting.
addictions? Sorry.
It's exhausting. It takes over my mind and I obsess about it. I obsess whatever it is, I will obsess about having access to it. Like with kratom, I'd have to order it so I had plenty there. Like with alcohol, I would have to like plan out how I'm gonna drink before I go meet up with people to pregame. With weed, I'd have to like, have an ounce and just make sure I had edibles and had, enough to smoke. Like I had everything. Like I just I obsess. I obsess. And even when I have like enough and have plenty for like 2 weeks, I'm already thinking like, okay, well I gotta like think about the next 2 weeks, And like with gambling, like it's like just takes over my mind. It's exhausting. It could be exhausting. And in those moments I have to pause, I have to recognize, and I have to like take another action. Again, reach out to somebody else, get out of myself. That's the only way to break that like exhausting mindset. So, and recovery, because I know you're about to ask that.
Yeah, one word
Freeing.
that would use to describe your recovery. You're not allowed to ask the questions, buddy. I asked the questions.
That's fair. Look, man, I'm just getting ahead of myself here. Uh, freeing, I would say. That's
Yeah.
that's the word for me. It's been very freeing. Uh, yeah,
And
I'm very grateful.
what's your proudest moment in recovery so far?
This last year, no question. A year ago, Forrest, I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career. I was unemployed. This is why I was so anxious when I went to the fantasy draft. I was unemployed. I had gotten a job and I was like I was gonna go like sell like go on the road and help sell HVAC stuff, and like it was gonna pay a lot of money. And I had to like memorize a script, and I was memorizing it and I just realized I couldn't do this. And I was just so low, man. I was just so low. My life was so small. And this last year I've grown. I've found a career, digital marketing, that I love. I'm surprised I love it. I work for a great company. I get to do, a little work on the side, and that's growing. And like the company I work for is a nonprofit, and it's amazing. It's a nonprofit I grew up going to, and it's I already got promoted, and I have full time benefits, and like just that has been a big step for me. And coming from being a comedian, it's been a big change. Um, and then as a husband, as a son, as a friend, like I show up, man. Somebody calls me, I show up, I answer. I'm more the man that I want to be than I've ever been. And it's just like it was just the difference in like last year being at that draft and coming to the draft this year. I keep bringing it up because it was so different. I was so comfortable this year, so happy to see everybody, not focused on myself, focused on being with my friends. I actually like me for maybe the first, not the first time in my life, but like I actually like me, man. And it's something that like you talked about, like I'm very kind to people. I've always been very kind to people, but I've always been just uncomfortable in my skin. And I finally feel like I'm comfortable. And I know that that's a direct result of working a stronger program. I do more than I ever have in the program I'm in. I reach out to more people than I ever have. I just I like me because I am thinking of other people, and I wanna continue to do that, because if I could do that, life will turn out really good, and, I won't use, and, you know, I'll just continue to grow. And like with gambling, like I just caught myself, like I've been making too many prop bets, so I'm gonna stop, and I say that and my brain's like, "No, you're not gonna stop," but I am. I'm like, like that's just the next thing. And like I know if you know, I know if I continue living the way I'm living, everything's gonna be okay. And I'm just very proud of that, because it's amazing how far life's come in a year.
You think you're gonna stop gambling? You said?
At the very least, I'm going. Yeah, I think like Yes. This happened again in March. I was like doing prop bets on like basketball like almost every night, and I realized I had to stop, and I did. And then it only started up again because like I just signed up for this Fantasy Pros app, and like to get it for free, you had to like deposit $20 in Chalkboard, which is a gambling prop betting app, and they give you $20 free. And then I won a little bit, and then I kept betting and I kept betting, and then we went to Atlantic City, and I keep making prop bets. I won big prop bets in Atlantic City. They got my money back, and I've just like I'm up, but I'm losing what I'm up on, and it's again because it's not a lot of money because I made two $10 bets today. I
Yeah.
believe, are like a $10 and $20 bet. And that's it. That's all I'm making today. You know, it's not crazy, but I just realized like I'm doing it every day and it's taking over. Like I'm spending too much time and I need to,
Yeah.
at the very least, I need to stop betting on baseball.
Well, that season's
But
end. So
exactly. So thank goodness, right? That's a helpful thing.
I like how you're
But I
like, I'm gonna
also
stop betting on baseball in 5 weeks.
in 5 weeks when football's in full season. But no, I need to not like fantasy's enough. It's exhausting to gamble and do fantasy. Like fantasy beats me up
Yeah,
on
can I
Sundays
tell
as
you
it is.
because and this is I don't judge anybody on anything, but when we were in Atlantic City, I like because a lot of my friends gamble. And when I watch people gamble, I I can usually like I can tell whether they're enjoying it or not, is the best way I can put it, or if it's like a chore. Tell us. And I was watching in Atlantic City. So sometimes I'd hang out with like, everyone went down to gamble and they'd all sit down at a table together, which is fun community. And I'd stand back there and have like I don't even drink that. I think I drank one day when I was there because that's like another thing that's not important to me.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd sit back with like a Diet Coke or whatever. And on our whole crew, I was just watching the way people gamble and like, because everyone always comes up to me, do you think I have a gambling problem?
Dude,
Which
and
is
that's the
not for
same
me
thing
to
with
answer. It's not for me.
with drinking and stuff. People come up and like, "Oh, you're sober, so let
Yeah.
me ask you, you think like," or they do like they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not like it's great for you," and but I'm not, and like they'll describe their addiction, but like in a way of like it's not. I don't have a problem. People
No. Yeah.
like to compare.
One thing that I like, and this doesn't necessarily hold true for everybody, but just in my experience of watching people gamble at a casino, when somebody at a casino goes, "Woo!" like that, yeah. I don't mean like, "Yeah, fuck yeah," not that one. I just mean like, "Yay!" like this one. You don't have a gambling problem. because, because I've never anyone that I've gambled that's like hard gut, you're always just like, I've won like tremendous amounts of money and like jackpots and I've just been like, yeah, okay. Anyways, okay, so I gotta pay off that thing with him. I do like that.
Uh-huh,
And so I
uh-huh.
was like just watching like table of like some of the guys in our league and like they'd win like $10. Like cheers so loud. And I was like, the fuck is this guy cheering for? And I was like, oh, he's gambling normally.
Oh man, it's
Again,
funny.
that's not 100%, but it was very funny. Like what, like,
No, where I'm watching games, I'm like, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." Like I just
oh,
I
that ref cheated. Okay.
last night I had a bad beat. I lost $100. I didn't lose 100. I lost $10, but I would have won 100
Yeah.
if Christian Javier would have gotten one more out, and he
Uh,
didn't. They pulled him with
Nobody
two
on
outs
this
in the.
podcast knows who the fuck Christian Javier is. Just saying.
I didn't know who Christian Javier was. Why would I ever know or give a damn?
uh,
But because of gambling, I know these pitchers now, and I don't
but,
care about baseball. I don't care at all.
but if you keep like that's one of the things that too is like you remember those. There's like things I remember from years and
Bad
years ago
beats.
where I'm just like, that guy's a piece of shit. And I'm like, that's just a guy doing a job. like,
Like he's not thinking
eh,
about me. Yeah,
not
and
his
fantasy's
fault
the same way.
that I
Fantasy,
lost
I
money. It's my fault I
yeah,
lost money.
yeah. But
What's the
go ahead.
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say like I know I know it's something I need to like I'm probably gonna have to talk to my sponsor about it. Like I need to. It's just it's not causing me harm, but if I keep continuing it, I don't want it to cause me harm. So I need to be honest with myself about it. And because of the place I'm in right now in life, it's like I
Yeah.
could look at it honestly. So
Well, it's up to you. It's always up to you with addiction.
No. Yeah, end of the
I
day.
can tell you, and I've talked about it on this podcast where I dipped my toe into like Bitcoin, Ethereum, all that stuff back when it was like super hot. And I was like immediately within a couple of days, like, oh, this is gambling. This feels like gambling. This feels like gambling. I have to stop doing this.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, but the way that you're talking about it and justifying is like, it almost is like, but it's again up to you, not up to me to
No,
say.
and
Yeah.
until I admit I have an issue,
Yeah.
nothing's gonna change. So,
Yeah.
like, being on this podcast is good today because I admit that probably have an issue, and, that issue is taking up too much time in my mind,
The
and
time thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a time thing, and, like, ugh, it's a time thing, and being paying attention to my wife, so
Yeah.
thanks, Forrest. I
What's
got another issue I'm dealing with now.
what's the worst advice someone gave you while you were struggling?
Dude, it's the worst advice people give, just try harder.
Oh, yeah.
Like, "Oh, that's gonna make it work. I could just try harder."
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, just try harder.
White knuckle. White knuckle
Yeah,
it.
it's like, you could do it, just do it, like, come on, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, like, the only thing I'll say about a lot of times those people, they wanna help you, but they don't know what to say because
Because
'cause
they've
they're
never
not
been
addicts.
through it.
Yeah, because 'cause they're
100%.
not addicts, yeah,
No,
and
no,
so
100%. It's not them, it's just the advice is it's shit.
yeah, sometimes they're coming from a place of a little smugginess where you're like, "Fuck off," but most of the time, it's a
Most
person that
parts,
cares
yeah.
about you, and they wanna say something, but they're just like, "I don't know, just don't stop," like, and you're
I
like,
don't know what to
alright."
do, like, but I want you to be better, like, it's gonna be okay, like that kinda
Yeah,
thing. It's like, they just don't know what to say, you're right, but
yeah.
the heart's in the right
Um,
place, it's just dumb.
Not always, there's some dickheads, but, what advice do you have for someone that is struggling?
So, I really like this question. There's 2 things. First off, like, beating yourself up doesn't help. You gotta give yourself a little grace, a little love, like, a little, like and that again is, like, advice that's very hard to follow, like, it's easy for me to say, but, like, when you're in the throes, how can you do that? But, like, you just know that's not gonna help. Give yourself be like, "Okay, I'll beat myself up in, like, an hour. Let me just put it aside." But the biggest thing, and we've mentioned it a lot in this podcast today, is it's okay to talk about it. Like, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
If you're not talking about it, like, it's only gonna get worse. Like, even if you're, like, ashamed or you feel bad, like, there's people who understand, and even people who don't. Like, they just want you to be better, and, like, they wanna be there for you. And, like we said about, like, making your world small, the only way to get your world bigger is to, like, actually reach out. And that's not easy, but again, a small action. Reach out to one person today. If you're struggling, like, reach out to one person, whatever your addiction is, if you're dealing with depression, whatever it may be, like, reach out to one person today. Text them, call them. I like to call. I'm old school, but that makes the biggest difference in my day if I actually call somebody, you know? It changes everything if you just, like, reach out and, like, are honest about what you're going through. Just do that. Just try it. Like, if it doesn't work, then don't do it again, but just try it.
Yeah, good advice. I was, hoping you would say, "If you get knocked down, get back up again."
Hey, man,
Yeah.
look, you're never gonna keep me down, alright?
Forgot the next line. Thank you. I was like, "What's the next line?" Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Never.
Chumbawamba.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. It's
Yeah.
true, man.
Jake Marin, thank you for being here, my friend. Go look
Great
at
to
his
be here.
books. Puzzled, Jewish holidays, puzzled American holidays. You got kids, you need to stimulate your brain, whatever. You want to learn about the holidays,
Yep.
whatever. But also, more importantly, thanks for being here and sharing your stories and insights. And
Happy to, and if anybody out there is struggling, like, feel free to reach out. Like, hit me up at Jake Marin Wortham on Instagram, like, that's it's cool. Like, again, the whole reason I did this is because it's like, we wanna get out there. Nothing to
yeah.
be ashamed of.
Thanks again to Jake Marin for being here and sharing his I'm not gonna say journey. I always say journey. Sharing his insights and his struggles. And thanks to you guys for being here. Again, if you are feeling like you're going to harm yourself or suicidal, dial 988 in Canada, the United States, the other countries. There's a list of suicide crisis lines on a Wikipedia page. Just put list of suicide crisis lines. Wikipedia page will pop up. Or you know what? Just make a long distance call and call 988 in the US or Canada. I wonder if you could do that. I'll have to try that experiment next time I'm in another country that's not Canada or United States and try and dial that number. Huh. Um, all right. That's it. I'm going to keep it short and sweet here at the end of the podcast. With Jake, we talked for a while. So thanks for being here. I'll talk to you guys next week. Love y'all.